Our scripture today comes from Matthew 25, verses 1 through 8. 25, verses 1 through 8. And we're coming from the Message Bible. And I invite you to listen for what the Spirit desires to say into your heart. It says, God's kingdom is like 10 young virgins who took oil lamps and went out to greet the bridegroom. 10 virgins took oil lamps and went out to greet the bridegroom. Now, 5 were silly and 5 were smart. We have 5 silly and 5 smart. Now, the silly virgins took lamps. They had their lamps. The lamps were full, maybe, but they had no extra oil. While the smart virgins took jars of oil to feed their lamps. They took jars of oil to feed their lamps. Now, something happened unexpectedly. The bridegroom did not show up when they expected him to. And they all said, okay, we're just going to go to sleep. They went to sleep. In the middle of the night, maybe around midnight, maybe 1, 2 in the morning, who knows? They don't tell us. But someone, I guess, was awake in order to see that the bridegroom was coming. And they said, he's here. He's here. The bridegroom is here. Get up and greet him. So the 10 virgins, they woke up. Okay. And they got their lamps ready. But the 5 silly virgins, the ones who didn't come prepared, they said to the smart ones, our lamps are going out. Our lamps are going out. And they had the nerve, the audacity, the unmitigated gall to ask the smart virgins if they could borrow some of theirs. This is the word for the people of God. Thanks be to God. And today, as I was reading the text for today, you heard about the 5 silly virgins and the 5 smart virgins. And I've heard this text preached over and over and over again so many times. I've read it myself so many times. But this time was different. This time, something else jumped out at me. You know, that's the point of reading stuff over and over again. I'm not one that usually likes to read stuff over and over and over again. Once I get it the first time, I kind of just throw it to the side. I don't even watch movies twice. I just like to watch it once and be done. But there is an argument for actually reading something, watching something more than once. You start to see different nuances and different things that you didn't see the first time or the second time. So that's what happened to me. So maybe I need to start reading stuff and doing stuff more than once. But that's neither here nor there. At this time, what stood out to me were the lamps. The lamps began to speak to me. And today I'm going to lift up about 6 points that we can glean from these lamps. They're going to speak to us today. So I invite you on the journey as we listen to the lamps. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. For the time is drawing nigh. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning, for the time is drawing nigh. Number one, the first thing that I learned from the lamps, and these are very simple points, but we're going to see what they can say to us on today. Number one, lamps have a specific function. Lamps have a specific function. They have a specific purpose. They know what they are designed to do. And maybe more importantly, they know what they are not designed to do. Lamps understand that I am not a refrigerator. I can't keep your food cold, even if I wanted to. I just can't. They understand that I am not a chair. You could try to sit on me if you want to, but it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable for you. So you might not want to sit on me. They're very clear what they can do and what they cannot do. Now, if you were to ask a lamp to keep your food cold or to wash the dishes or do something else, the lamps would politely say, I would if I could, but I can't, so I won't. It is what it is. Hmm. The lamp has a specific function. Just like the lamp, we have a specific function. We have a specific purpose, and we need to learn where we fit in. Learn our function. Conjunction, junction. What's your function? What are you supposed to do? What are you designed to do? Has your creator made you to do? And what should you avoid like the plague? Now, I've had a couple examples come to mind. As I was thinking, there are some that just, God bless them, they just don't like children. And if you don't like children, that's fine. But we don't need you working in the children's ministry with the kids if you don't like children. It's not a good fit. You're asking, well, why don't they just sit down and be quiet? Because they're kids. You know, that's not your ministry gift. Another one, maybe it's not, we love you so much, but if you cannot hold half a note in a bucket, maybe you should not be on the music ministry. I'm just saying. When I was growing up, we just had people, just whoever wanted to, they could be in the music ministry. But hopefully, when you do better, you know better, you do better, right? Because some of us who have an ear for music, we couldn't even get into the presence of God because we all of these wrong notes that we heard every single Sunday. So maybe you should find where you thrive, what your function is. So number one, we must learn what our function is and where we work best. Number two, lamps were made to burn. Lamps were made to burn. A lamp that does not burn, for all intents and purposes, is useless. It might look pretty. We might put it in the china cabinet. Does anybody still have china cabinets these days? I don't know. But you might put it on display, but it's not what its creator made it to do. It's not fulfilling its purpose. Lamp was made to burn. Now I can hear some lamps say, I don't want to burn out. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to keep my little oil to myself. And all they are doing is collecting dust. They could have helped somebody see the way. They could have brightened someone's day, but in their fear, they said, I'm afraid, and that if I help someone else, then who's going to help me? So I'm going to hoard my oil for myself. And they're no good to anyone. Let me break this down just a little bit further. There's a principle called the 20-80 rule or the Pareto principle that says, in short, that 20% of the people do 80, and I will venture to say 100% of the work. 20% of the people do 100% of the work. I don't care where you go, whether you're in church, whether you're in business, whether you're in school, 20%. Those little few end up doing all of the work. Maybe you were in that 20%. And you found that you were always the one carrying the group. 20% of the people doing all the work, while the 80% are sitting on the shelf, reaping the light from the other lamps. Now, could you imagine? Yes, we appreciate the 20%. And I know there's none of the 80% in this room. So we just talking about the other people that are not here. But could you imagine that if we flipped the roles even and had 80% of the lamps shining their lights, how much brighter would we all be? Now, 100% would be nice, but let's be real. Trying to get 100% of anybody to do anything is difficult. So, but even if we were able to bump up from 20% to 60% or 70%, it would make it so much easier for everybody. So, number one, lamps have a specific function. And two, this point here is lamps were made to burn. Somebody say, burn, baby, burn. Yes, that's what lamps are made to do. Number three, lamps need oil. Lamps need oil. It's so simple. It's a no-brainer. Lamps need oil, right? We all know that. Yet why is it that some of us, myself included, go days or weeks or months or maybe even years without getting oil? We never take the time to replenish. Now, some of us, we are workaholics. We just work, 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 work. We just love working. We just working all the time, burning oil, but never taking the time to replenish. I found this is especially true for those of us who are in the helping professions, those who are feel called to help other people, and we actually enjoy doing that. Yet, there's a saying that says, when you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. But to that I say, BS. That is a trick because you're still working, whether you love it or not. You still need to take time to just get away and replenish your oil. It's up to us to replenish, just like the lamp. We need to know that we need oil. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning, for the time is drawing nigh. Three more points for you. First point that we're going to recap: lamps have a specific function. Secondly, lamps were made to burn. Thirdly, lamps need oil. Fourthly, it's important for us to know what type of oil our lamps need. Know what type of oil our lamps need. Now, you can't put mineral oil in an oil lamp. In the same way, you can't put olive oil in your car engine. You're going to blow something up. It's important for us to know what type of oil is necessary for our lamps. What do you need to replenish your lamp? What puts you back at 100%? Maybe you need to go out and be in nature. Maybe you need to get out of the country and go to some foreign land. Maybe you need to just spend a quiet weekend at home. I don't know what it is for you, but it's important that you know what type of oil your lamp needs. Number five, don't wait until you run out of oil to replenish your oil. Don't wait until you see, oh, it's getting low. Now I need to go and replenish my oil, because something always happens. Murphy's Law. If the bad thing can happen, it will. And you're going to be unprepared. Just like the silly virgins in our pericope on today, they waited until their oil was going out before they went to get oil. And they missed out. Sooner or later, we all know, no matter how big your lamp is, no matter how small, we all know that lamp is going to need some oil. So I encourage you today just to get some oil. Why not? Now I can hear some lamps say, I don't have time to get oil. I'm too busy. I got a lot of work that I have to do. It's imperative for me to work, or my family needs me, or I'm going to wait until later on for the right time, until the kids grow up or the grandchildren get older, or I'm going to wait till after I retire, and then I am going to get some oil. Say, it's not the right time. And slowly the light is going out. Now, it doesn't happen in a day or two. It doesn't happen in a month. To the untrained eye, you still burning. We still see a flicker of a flame there. Yet, if we were to do a comparative study and we look at your light today and your light 3 years before, earlier, or a year earlier, we can see that there is a difference. You're not burning as brightly as you once did. There's no perfect time for us to replenish our light and replenish our oil, but we can't afford to wait. Can't wait any longer. Now, the sixth and final point is this, and this point might seem a little harsh. So, with all the pastoral care that I can muster and all the softness that I can conjure up, I'm going to encourage you with this next line. As a matter of fact, I want you to just talk to your neighbor and tell them these words. Tell them it's your responsibility to monitor your oil. Look at somebody, say, it's your responsibility. Come on, tell them it's your responsibility to monitor your oil. Mark, it's your responsibility to monitor your oil. Yes, it's your responsibility, Shannon. No one can do it for you. Now, sometimes I wish I were a mind reader. I wish I could just, see, Dwayne needs some oil. So let me just tell him to get some oil. I wish I could just see in the spirit and, I just know that Amber needs some oil. But unfortunately, I am not a mind reader. And I would venture to say that none of us in this room or even online are mind readers. Hmm. We can't tell what's going on within your heart and in your mind. So it is your responsibility. Allison, it's your responsibility. Maynard, it's your responsibility to monitor your own oil level. We're all busy. We have stuff that we have going on. So we can't monitor ours and yours too. You got to do your own work. Unfortunately, many of us don't see someone else's oil is burnt out until it's too late. When you end up going off on your family for no apparent reason, when you become cynical about everything, when somebody makes a joke and you just bite their head off, what's going on with you? What's wrong with you? Huh? They didn't monitor their oil. You must monitor your own oil. If you don't get anything else from this message on today, take this point that you must monitor your own oil. Now, I had to learn this lesson the hard way. When I was about 21 years old or so, I was a full-time student at the Art Institute of Atlanta, and I was sometimes going to school during the day or sometimes evening classes, and then I was working at United Parcel Service, unloading trucks at the time on the midnight shift. So sometimes going straight from work, sleeping in the car, and then going straight to work, getting off like 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning sometimes. As they say, I was burning the wick at both ends. So one night I was driving home and I was tired. I had a long night at work. I said, okay, I know I'm tired, but I can make it home. And it was cold outside, so I put it down all the windows and I blared some music and I was singing the music and I was almost home, like 5 minutes from the house. I said, okay, I made it home. And I closed my eyes just for a second and bam, hit the median on the side of the road. I was like, okay. I woke up and was able to get home. My brother came and got the car. But if that weren't bad enough, I said, okay, well, I can't afford to stop. I got so much work to do. I need to go to school and I need to work. So what? I can't take a break. It's I got to do this. And I'm young. I got to sacrifice now for a better tomorrow. So I went to work. This is some weeks later, some months later. I went to work that evening. I just got to work. Just got into one of those 18-wheeler trucks. Hadn't even picked up the first package. And I bent down and I started to feel some pain in my abdomen area. I was like, okay, I'm just going to press through. I can do this. I can do this. And I kept trying to work. Yet eventually the pain got so hard that I had to tell my supervisor at the time that I got to go home. I don't feel well. I don't know what it is. Maybe it was something I ate. So I went to the car, but I thought I was going to be able to drive home, but I was in so much pain. I started getting hot flashes, and then I got cold and everything. And so I had to call my parents to come pick me up. And that night, I was like, okay, maybe this will just pass. But the next morning, I still was in pain. My mom took me to the hospital. She dropped me off. She told me, just call your dad when you're ready to be picked up. We thought this was just something that I was just going to go and then come back out. One day went by. They ended up admitting me into the hospital. And then the second day and the third day, a week went by, and they couldn't figure out what was going on with me. And I was just in the hospital. I couldn't eat anything. And they ended up putting a tube down my nostrils because I was throwing up bile, just throwing up these green. It was suctioning out this green bile. I didn't even know I had bile in me, but it was sucking it out of me. And then I couldn't eat, so then they ended up putting a tube in through to feed me intravenously. And if that weren't enough, then I ended up having to get a catheter. And I had all these different plugs and things going through me. Still couldn't tell what was going on with me. Eventually, long story short, I ended up taking me in for exploratory surgery and found out that I had 3 hernias. And they had to remove about 3 feet of my small intestine. So it's like, okay, got through that. Finally, I was released from the hospital. I was home for about a month or two. You know, you got to recuperate after a major surgery like that. And now it was time for me to go back to United Parcel Service. Now, me and my, I guess, narcissistic self, I don't know, I thought that, when I went back to work, that there was a blaring hole that I had left, that they were going to be like, oh, Myron Chris, oh, we are so glad you came back. Oh, what we could do without you. You've been gone for months. We don't know how we made it without you. Come, this position is still available for you. That's what I thought was going to happen in my head. But when I went back, they said, oh, welcome back. Well, let's try to figure out somewhere to put me. Figure out somewhere to put me? You mean there wasn't a hole there? I learned the hard way, Wellspring, that life goes on with or without you. Life goes on with or without you. So, the moral of the story is you might as well go ahead and get some oil. You might as well go ahead and get some oil, because after you burn out, you'll just be replaced with someone else. Hmm. You say you can't afford to get some oil. I encourage you today that you can't afford not to. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. For the time is drawing nigh. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning, for the time is drawing now. Listen, Wellspring, don't grow weary. Wellspring, don't grow weary. Wellspring, don't grow weary till your work is done. Wellspring, don't grow weary. Wellspring, don't grow weary. Wellspring, don't grow weary till your work is done. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Everybody rise. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning, for the time is drawing nigh. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning, for the time is drawing. Wellspring, don't grow weary. Wellspring, don't grow weary. Wellspring, don't grow weary. Wellspring, don't till your work is done. Till your work is Wellspring. Don't Wellspring, don't grow weary. Wellspring, don't grow weary. Wellspring, don't grow weary to your work. Keep your lamps, keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. For the time is drawing nigh. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. For the time is drawing. One more time. Keep your lamps. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. For the time is drawing nigh.